All right, what up? This is Joe, and from me to you, my guest today, we got Roshaun Bowens. What's going on, Ro?
What's going on?
Man, nothing much, man. I appreciate you joining me today.
I'm glad to be here. I appreciate you creating this platform to spread some inspiration and positivity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what I'm all about. Definitely to push forward for positivity, inspiration, education, all that good stuff. So thanks for joining me.
Hmm.
So to kind of kick us off, what I like to kind of do when I ask everybody pretty much the same questions, just to kind of see what everybody's experience is like. Could you kind of start off by sharing a little bit about your background, maybe share a little bit about your parents, where they from, occupation, maybe
Hmm.
things like that?
All right, so I'm the son of Olivia and Johnny Bowens. My dad is from Memphis. My mom is from Chattanooga. They actually met at TSU.
Okay.
Um, and they a big part of my life. It's family. I'm definitely a family first type guy, and that really started with them, and it spread it because I only have one sibling, and we super tight too, but it's only one. So I definitely have friends who have kind of turned into family as well, So I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, nah. It definitely makes sense, nah, for sure. Cause I'm the same way as well. Cause like, just like you said, my parents they actually met at TSU as well. My mom was originally from New York, and then my dad he's Nigerian, but they just ended up going to TSU, and then we just ended up down here. When I don't have any family here, so like the friends I have is kind of like my family as well. So
Hmm.
I can definitely relate to kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Nah, so that's what's up. So, um, a little bit about yourself, kind of share a little bit about maybe your school experience. Like, where'd you go to school up? Where
Hmm.
I guess I know you're from Nashville. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Where you
so
from?
so I'm from Bordeaux.
Okay.
I went to Cumberland, then Bordeaux, then Ewan Park. Then I ended up going to McGavick. I was on for Whites Creek, but my mom, I guess, didn't want me to go to school with all my friends,
So
you know what
yeah,
I'm saying? And she wanted to give me a different experience because the demographic up into high school, I had went to, school with all black, you know what I'm saying? So, and so my dad was the one who kind of set the expectations around sports and athletics and doing my best and playing hard. And I had the best of both worlds because my mom was the same way on the academic side of it.
yeah,
So I really, all through school, I appreciated my school experience. And then it got to a certain point with school where people start kind of putting me in the dumb jock category just because they didn't expect for somebody to be an athlete and social,
yeah.
and still be smart as well, So I kind of had the best of both worlds with that.
No, that's pretty cool. So, kind of tell me about that. I guess, of course, you're very tall, so I'm assuming you said your dad put you kind of in sports. You were playing sports, so you said something about just kind of having that stereotype. So, kind of tell me, I guess, how was that experience being like playing a student athlete? I guess in school.
Yeah, I mean, like it was pretty awesome. I always enjoyed it. So I started playing at like 5 years old, and I pretty much played all sports: baseball, football, basketball, track.
Yeah.
All year round. Basketball started taking the lead probably around 7th and like 8th grade. So like in high school, I just did basketball and track. But the one thing I loved about sports is that team feel, that camaraderie. Like that was something that I really appreciated. Um, my dad actually, so I guess this is transitioning into TSU because some like people ask me sometimes like, why did I choose TSU? Part of why I chose TSU is because my whole life from playing sports, I had my mom and dad at the games, and that's like a big deal, um, you know. And when I was deciding on where to go, I'm like, man, my dad gonna go broke if I can go play in California somewhere. My dad gonna come to the game. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So and I had kind of grew up on campus at TSU through NYSP camp, which is a summer camp, and I had went there for like 4 years in a row. So TSU really felt like home. But in terms of my experience, one thing that did happen is so I went to McGavick High School. Like I said, my mom sent me somewhere else to like kind of get me away from my friends and expose me to a more diverse school. And my senior year, I ended up graduating in honors. Our senior class was like 400. I graduated like 60 something, right? I go up there to get my honors sash, and the doggone teacher gonna start laughing and like, oh, Roshaun, you such a jokester and blah blah blah. And I'm sitting there at at this point, I'm old enough to instantly know racism or stereotypes. I'm well versed in like in that by this point in my life. You know, I'm what 17,
Yeah.
and it took the teacher beside him to nudge him and was like, nah, there go his name right there. And that teacher just like, oh, gave me my sash and like moved on. Like, no, oh, my bad, no nothing, you know. So it's things like that. Of course, it just motivates you to want to do, even better. But yeah, that's just one experience of many because I got all kind of AAU stories too, So
Yeah, no, that sounds like definitely an experience that would have stuck out with someone and definitely would kind of give you somebody like make you think and give you an extra push, just kind of getting like a new world experience. 'Cause that's like a world experience. Like you said, you've seen it before, but just to kind of see it firsthand, maybe from somebody that you didn't expect in the position that
mm,
you didn't expect
mm,
for it to come from would be kind of wild for sure. So before we kind of get into TSU, can you talk to me, I guess, about your high school experience in regards to because I know you played basketball, but what was your first love? I would
mm,
say because you say you played multiple sports as
mm.
well.
It was probably basketball.
Basketball.
Yeah, it's
Oh, okay, okay.
basketball. So the one thing I would say about my high school experience that if I don't really have any regrets, but in hindsight,
Yeah,
if I would have went to White's Creek in high school, I'm pretty sure. Well, I know for a fact I would have had a higher winning percentage in high school, but I'm pretty sure we would have been in Final Four of the state. So like that's one thing when I think back on high school. But as far as my high school experience, my mom was right on point by
yeah,
exposing me to a more diverse population. If I'm being, transparent,
yeah,
going to McGavick, that's where I went to high school at, I was like, white people are cool. Like, there's some cool white people.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Because
yeah,
prior to that, I had never been in large groups of like white people.
yeah. Now I can
So
understand that.
I probably even had bias from my worldview. So, but that exposed me, and it was awesome because now I'm not as limited. And then I got even more exposed when I went overseas and played because that opened me up to the world and culture, and just made me a more well-rounded person. Um, so yeah, those are two things that come to my mind when I think about high school.
Yeah, no, that's what's up. All right, so I still want to still talk about maybe just your high school career in regards to basketball. So just have a
Yeah.
few questions like in regards to like recruitment and things like that during your particular time. How was that experience compared to what you maybe see now? Like, what are some of the advantages that y'all might have had back then? And then what do you kind of see maybe some advantages that, or did y'all even have any advantages back then to recruiting? So, what was the best way for recruiting? Because you said, I know you mentioned that Whites Creek, if you played there, you might have had a better winning position percentage. Did that have any impact possibly on your recruitment chances as well and things like that? If you were interested in going anywhere, 'cause I know you had your mindset on TSU, but
Right. Well, no, it's all about exposure. So when
yes,
it comes to like the game now, when it comes to AAU and technology,
yeah.
exposure is more accessible. You know what I'm saying? Um, no, I was going to McGavick regardless because that's what my mom
Yeah,
said I was
yeah,
going.
yeah,
Like, you know what I'm saying? So the school really just got to come up, right? Because I
yeah,
ain't zoned to McGavick.
yeah. No, for sure.
Um, but I appreciated it because it was competitive because so McGavick was like a larger school. So of course the bigger the school, the more hoopers you think you got at the
Yeah,
school,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Um, and I would say like player development, like and it's no knock against the coaching staff. It's really just a knock against the times, where now you go to high schools and they might have 4 shooting machines. Yeah, I'm willing to bet if my squad had 4 shooting machines, we all would have probably shot better.
yeah,
So it's like things like that that I think about. But the one thing that I learned is like self development. Like I can tell you something that burnt me up. So every I think it was Thursday, every Thursday on the front of the sports paper in the Tennessean, they used to do a article about a prep star in the city,
Yeah.
and they used to put a big dumb picture on the front page of the sports with the article. You open it up, it got more on the inside,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I wanted one of them,
Yeah.
like bad. And like my goal, my senior year was like I'm gonna get one of them. Cause sophomore year, I mean not my sophomore, my junior year, I played, I hooped, but I really, wasn't killing like that. I was humble, I was decent, but my senior year I was killing, So my goal was I'm finna get this front page, right? So I can frame that mug and have it on my wall right now as we speak, right? Never got that joint. And what used to run me hot, Josiah, the people on the front page, yeah, I just dropped 29 on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that goes back to winning and exposure, because their team might be winning, you know what I'm saying, or they team high, or they team on a 7 game win streak, so they highlight the person who, it's all that with it, But like that's something that motivated me. And do you know, the only reason I got an article, so I didn't get no article all year about nothing, right? And that like burnt me up.
Yeah.
And it took putting out Antioch. It took, what I'm saying, beating them in the district tournament at Stratford to finally get a little strip about McGavick upsets, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I take it, and guess what? I still got it eliminated. You know
Yeah.
what I'm
You
saying?
better. Yeah.
I ain't frame it, but it's eliminated for sure.
Yeah, nah, that's what's up. I sure to keep it myself, cause I played basketball my freshman year. That was it. But I ain't have no. My career was trash. I ain't gonna lie. I probably had just a few points the whole season. But I like, just like you mentioned earlier, like McGavick was a big school, so myself not ever playing like AAU, didn't have that exposure from playing different places. So once I got in front of that big crowd for like the first time just playing, I kind of like I know what to do outside. I can ball outside, but just playing in front of everybody, it was just such a shock. I never had that exposure; it just threw me out my game. So yeah. Nah, so that's what's up. So talk to me now. I guess I know you said TSU been on your mind. How is that recruitment process, or did you have to try out for the team, or did you come recruited for the team?
um, well, so pretty much the majority of my offers came from AAU. You
Okay.
know what I'm saying? From my junior to senior year. That summer, I played AAU, and that's pretty much where the majority of my offers came from. TSU being like one of those schools. And it was a pretty easy like decision. In hindsight on that, I was recruited by the like Naval Academy, and the only thing that stopped me from going there is when they told me that you got to serve, X amount of years. I think it was like 3 years. And 17-year-old role was like, okay, cool. And they was like, but you can be stationed anywhere in the world, like at least 3 places anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
When they hit me with that world view, nah,
Yeah.
I'm cool right
Yeah.
here in Bordeaux, you know what I'm saying, or
Yeah.
in Tennessee. But in hindsight, who knows what that doors would have opened, But yeah, so I just had to go TSU to play in front of the home crowd. Like I said, I literally grew up in the Gentry Center. I learned how to swim in the Gentry.
Yeah.
I got my first pair of J's stolen in the Gentry. It was my fault. I didn't put no lock on the
Yeah.
um and then I didn't get my first fist fight at Gentry, but I did get in a fight in Gentry. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I did a
Yeah.
lot of through over those 4 summers. I kind of matured, all up in Gentry. So to go play in Gentry, it was kind of like a no brainer.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And you said something interesting as well because I also had an interview with Dante Jones as well, and he had mentioned something about his exposure in AAU. That's what got him his opportunity at the college that he went to as well. So can you kind of talk about maybe before we kind of get back into TSU a little bit about like just how the importance of playing AAU basketball is and just having that exposure?
Yeah, so like now it's like major. Like whenever I have kids, yeah, they get in the
Yeah,
AU 4, 5 years old, early, being on the circuit because they just have so many tournaments. And the reason why I think AAU is awesome, is because you get to play against talent all over the country. So
yeah,
you might think you cold right here. because that was one of the things I went to. My dad took me to a 5-star camp in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
You know, so like I told you, my senior year I was killing.
Yeah.
That was the only camp I went to, and that made me work harder. But I went to that 5-star camp that summer, and it was people my height, point guards. Like I'm like, man, okay, I'm not as cold as I thought, and I think playing on if you're on a good AAU team and you traveling around the country playing some of the top AAU teams, that's how you get better, playing the best. But yeah, man, like the AAU game, even in Chicago where I'm at, it's like political. It's big bucks involved. And I ain't even talking about even on no scandal stuff, just with the branding and getting sponsors, so I wish I would have, in hindsight, I wish I would have did AAU more consistent. I never really had a real AU team. I kind of just bounced around on who need a spot or,
Yeah.
so I could have definitely, I think if my dad would have known, because I got into the AAU game late, like in high school,
Yeah.
instead of in 7th grade, 6th grade.
Yeah, they are getting in there early, for sure. And that's how they already got like. It's funny because people already look at them now when they're 7, 8, 9 years old. Like that's wild to me. But yeah, appreciate you sharing the information. But also, kind of going back into TSU. So you're in TSU playing basketball, but also, what was your major while you were at TSU?
My major was psychology.
Psychology. All right. So
Yeah.
kind of tell me why you decided to choose that major.
So I wanted to be a sports trainer
Okay.
because I'm like, if I don't, you know what I'm saying, go play pro ball, I I love basketball, so I wanted to find a job that kept me around the game. So I'm like, I'd be a trainer, you
Yeah.
know. At midterm and like it was a biology class, and at midterm I had an F. It was a rap. Science ain't for me. So I kind of transitioned to psychology because my sister, she's 6 years older than me. She a psychologist now.
Yeah.
So I kind of followed in her footsteps because I knew with psychology, it offered me a range of opportunities. I knew I never wanted like a office job in a cubicle doing the same thing every day. Nah. So in psychology, it allows me a little more flexibility with my opportunities.
Yeah. No, that's cool. So, um, gonna ask you a little bit about more about that. Well, I guess
Hmm.
I'll just ask you about now. So, what I guess during taking those courses, what are some like some things that you've learned that you can kind of maybe share that you probably without having to go through and take those courses at TSU, something that you can maybe share with
Hmm.
somebody that you didn't know before taking the courses, or maybe an outlook or perspective.
Well, in terms of like advice, because as cliche as it sounds, it came natural.
Yeah.
Like even before me going into psychology, me being a supporter, being a good like listener, always wanting to help and give feedback. I like being a peacemaker. Being anti-negative.
Yeah.
Being optimistic. Those are all qualities of a good therapist. So um, I think the only piece of advice in terms of courses is just make sure you know what you want to do with it. And that's almost with any major.
Yeah.
Because you can get a degree in some and
Yeah.
then don't use it. Yes, you wasted your money. Don't blame that on college though. Like don't blame that on, you could have been more strategic with your
Yeah.
plan. So even in terms of psychology, you need to know because to be honest, you almost got to get a master's. Like there's no need in getting a bachelor's in psychology without that master's. Because you need gonna need that master's to get licensed, and getting licensed is critical to your opportunities, right? So um yeah, like that's the main thing.
Just to maximize those opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna ask you about that because I know you got your master's and your license as well.
Hmm.
But I guess kind of back into TSU, just asking a little bit more about I guess your student athlete experience, just kind of playing. Uh, your
Right.
numbers. Looked at your numbers over the few years. Definitely good numbers. I would
Hmm.
say kind of leading the team. Definitely 1 and 2 on the team
Hmm.
for pretty much your entire career.
Hmm.
So can you kind of tell me about that experience? Like just kind of walking in from the first day of practice, I
Mm.
guess, from high school. Now you're up here in college now. How was that
Yeah.
experience?
So it was pretty awesome because it started while I was still in high school. So
Okay.
like once I committed, I was in high school, leaving McGavick, going to TSU to hoop with the team. Um, after school, right?
Oh, okay.
And it was awesome because my coach came in one time and was like kind of gave me props in front of the whole team, like stop the pickup game because people was kind of out there BSing.
Yeah.
Stop the pickup game, called everybody over, and was like, y'all out here BSing, but this man right here finna take one of y'all spot,
Yeah.
you know. So that kind of, I'm still in high school, you
Yeah.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But of course I was like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? But on the inside, I'm like, cause we finna go back out here and play pickup. So now I know they finna be coming at me, which they did, which as they should, but it was all in love though, you know what I'm saying? So that's one moment that definitely stands out to my in my mind that gave me confidence
Yeah.
going forward, you know. And yeah, man, my like freshman year was good. Like I appreciate my whole career, the ups and the downs. Um, being on campus, I enjoy the spotlight. I ain't never been, afraid of the spotlight. I'm
Yeah.
humble, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying, but I enjoy the attention because it's like you represent the school. So I even enjoy the attention at away games.
Yeah. For sure.
Like walking in Old Charlie's with my TSU with the whole squad. We in this Old Charlie's in Missouri.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I love that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nah, that's what's up. Can you share like maybe what's one of your most memorable games that you can remember? It don't even have to be like maybe because of your performance or anything like that. It could
Yeah.
just be something that stuck out to you or um, in regards that you can kind of remember offhand.
Um well, I guess the only one, so out of all 4 years I only made and I guess some people never make it. So I'ma proudly say I
Yeah.
made Sports Center top 10 one time.
Okay.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember that game so well because we was playing Louisville.
Yeah.
And Coach Tillis kind of chewed me out. He chewed everybody out, but at halftime in the locker room, he chewed everybody out.
Yeah.
Then he hit me with the eye contact,
Yeah.
and you playing like such and such. And because I was doing too much finesse,
Yeah.
like going up trying to do all this. He was like, "Nah, just go up strong, man. Y'all doing all this BS." And he was right,
Yeah.
you know. And like 2 plays after halftime, I swung the ball, took one dribble, my 2 steps. I think the guy name was Miles. Tried to take a charge, boomed on him, hung on the rim with
Yeah.
one hand. Like it's nasty when you dunk and hang on the rim with one hand, look down at him,
Yeah.
boom, ran down court. Um, and I only seen it one time, so I'm on the bus. I don't even know because this is in 2000 and what 5,
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
So only reason I knew because somebody called me, and told me I had a few homeboys like, yo, I just saw you, blah, blah, blah. And back then, ain't no screen record,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
technology not like it is now. And the only reason I saw it and I had it for a second is I was watching, so me on YouTube, I can go down a rabbit hole watching dunk highlights.
Yeah.
I can watch dunk highlights for a while.
Yeah.
And I was watching dunk highlights and saw that joint. Somebody had made like a clip, and then that was so long ago. I don't even have that. But that's one moment I remember because that was a time where I got called out
Yeah.
and I responded to the call.
Yeah.
All
Yeah. Yeah.
right, all right, you said stop punk, and I remember him saying, "Go dunk on somebody."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Y'all out here doing all this, go dunk on
Yeah.
somebody. Like you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
then I did it. So like that was pretty cool.
Yeah, nah, it's water pretty cool. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Nah,
Even though that's also the game, I can be transparent. That's also the game where I saw what a real pro, because Garcia was on that team,
yeah,
and then Garcia gave me. And I'm a pretty good defender, like that's why I take pride in. And Garcia gave me like 20 some kind of easy. Like I didn't appreciate how easy he kind of chilling, and
yeah.
I'm trying to chuck him. I'm trying to do all kind of stuff, and this man out here chilling. But he also like pro too. So.
Nah, that's cool, man. Nah, yeah, they gotta find that archive. We gotta see
I
that
already
again.
done tried, bro.
Yeah.
I already done tried. I done email YouTube. I done did all kind of stuff, man. So
Oh man, yeah. Nah, that's wild. Nah, that's cool. That's definitely a good, memorable experience. Just like you said, just after coming out like a huddle from that here and there, then you come back and have that as a response. Yeah,
hmm
yeah. I just kind of picture in my head. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, it was nasty.
No. So So I guess like just still talking basketball. What's one player that like inspired you, or I would say that you kind of maybe model your game after, or maybe model, or maybe say I want to be like this particular player. Or you ain't even gotta play the player you might
Mm-hmm.
your style might not be like, but who maybe a player that maybe inspired you while you were coming up.
Um, like coming up as far as like when I was younger, I'm gonna say like Dante Jones. That was
Yeah,
first person who I heard like my dad talk about.
yeah,
Like you know what I'm saying? You know, and then when I got a little older too, that Pearl Cone team, it was a Pearl Cone team that had, Slay, Henderson, BT, Boosie, Reynolds, that whole Pearl Cone team, kind of coached by Penny Daddy. That team kind of inspired me as well with um, the level of competition,
yeah,
like the level of excellence. Like everybody can ball, like everybody, and nobody's really like one dimensional, And Tall Drink, like let me not forget to say Tall Drink name on that Pearl team.
that team
Um,
was legendary.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Um, and then I mean, of course Jordan, like
yeah,
like my mama, like everybody in the household, like we still got the VHS tapes from when my mama recorded all the playoffs, and I don't think we got all of the six of them, but we got at least one three-peat,
yeah,
on
yeah.
VHS tapes now, So definitely, Jordan, which is the obvious
Yeah,
answer.
now it's cool. It's cool, really, to hear you just say like maybe not the pro F. Well, Dante, of course, was professional, but just people from the hometown that inspired you before you maybe said anybody that was from far that won't even know. So
Hmm.
that was even just kind of cool to hear that. So, but I was going to ask you, just like you said now, like, well, speaking of TSU, there's a big kind of wave now because a lot of people are coming there. We got like Hershey Miller, and then they got Fitzgerald. So kind of talk to me about that because now it seems like they're gonna have a different experience now at TSU compared to like when we were there
Yeah.
during our particular time.
Um, I mean, so I support the squad, 1000%, and it really boils down to like just winning,
Yeah,
like you know what I'm saying. Um, I know last year was tough on the with the pandemic and that whole season, kind of got an asterisk by it for all kind of reasons, but mainly the pandemic, but the success from the year before and the way the fans came out, that matters.
yeah,
You know, like me playing in Gentry when we used to play Fist. Yeah, like that game, I jumped a little bit higher. My adrenaline was, I ran a little bit faster. Like,
yeah,
so to create that type of environment, which I think is going to happen every home game, I think that's going to be the like game changer. So like hopefully people like the squad stay humble, which Penny is humble. You know what I'm saying? So is your head coach humble?
yeah,
I'm assuming that's going to trickle down. But young guys is like young guys. I don't care how humble your like coach is. So hopefully the squad stay humble and stay together. You know what I'm saying? And play hard and play D. Then everything else will like take care of itself.
yeah. No, I'm just looking forward to it myself actually because now there's like a big cultural awareness. So
Hmm.
just not only are a lot of people are attention, they're gonna have a lot of exposure, but
Hmm.
um,
And to answer your question specifically too, I was excited when Fitzgerald signed because there's too much talent
in the city,
in the city
yeah,
that leaves.
yeah,
So to a certain extent, as somebody who stay, I had other options like, too, but to like stay kind of, when that next Nashville baller come up, TSU is a real option
yeah.
because other ballers who had options have done it, So to kind of keep that going, so it ain't no gap to me, felt good. So and then with Miller, as much as I love the spotlight and the awareness that it brings, hence why it's part of it. I even
Yeah,
heard Pete talking about that, which is awesome. He got a ball too.
yeah.
Everybody got to put
Everybody
up.
got put.
Like once
Yeah,
you get on the court, you know what I'm saying.
yeah,
You got to put up. And with the amount of talent that we got, I'm super excited.
Yeah, no, I'm excited too. I think they're gonna have a successful season and hopefully a successful run for sure. It's gonna be exciting to see.
Hmm.
Also, speaking of just exciting to see, you got your picture on the Hall of Fame or Wall of Fame at
Yeah,
TSU. Can you try to tell me about that?
yeah, man. I'm gonna say shout out to Miss Phillips, the former AD, and anybody else who had a like hand in that, because I didn't know nothing about it. My homegirl Zelina was actually just on Snapchat,
Yeah,
and this really got a testimony to it too, because during the same time when I found out, I was going through like some systemic racism at work and just feeling like used and undervalued, and kind of going through it and because if you go through it too much, to a certain degree, you can start like, man, am I
yeah,
like it's something wrong? You know what I mean? And I was looking on Snapchat, and she had it on her Snapchat, and I saw myself, but I thought it was an old flyer that was like a black and white flyer. I'm like, oh, like she found one of them old flyers.
yeah,
Yeah, send me that. I want
yeah,
all that. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
But she kept getting closer. It kept getting bigger and bigger. And I looked, and when they finally settled in, I'm like, dang, did they put me on the wall? Like,
yeah,
and I ended up really getting emotional at that time because I'm like, wow, I'm in here worried about what these white folks think about me, right? And I got a whole university and community and city that appreciates and values me. Why am I out tripping about this? So I needed that in that moment, man. It was a pretty deep moment, So yeah, man, they threw me up there. It was a lot of players they probably could have picked. So I just feel honored, because again, I learned how to swim in that gym when I was 8 years old.
yeah,
I grew up in that gym, so now to be kind of permanent until they do a full makeover, for right
yeah,
now it's permanent.
yeah,
It's like it's pretty like special.
yeah. Now for yeah, you're a part of it now for sure.
Hmm.
So that's pretty cool. So talk to me now. I guess post TSU, you of course graduated. You received your bachelor's in psychology at this time,
Hmm.
but now we're off to what's next.
So after TSU, I went overseas and had a small stint overseas. And then when I had to make that decision, like, do I keep hooping? Because again, I told you I knew I had to go back and get my master's, or do I go back to school? Because school ain't never been hard for me. I kind of like school,
Yeah.
So I had to make that decision. I decided to like go back to school, which is how I ended up in Chicago.
Okay. Cool. I'm gonna ask you about that in just a second, but I know you said you had your stint overseas. I just want to
Hmm.
ask you. I know you played in Luxembourg, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so I just kind of just your experience in Luxembourg. How was that? Just playing professionally overseas. You can just kind of, you don't have to share too much or just whatever you
Yeah.
like to kind of share.
Um, I mean, getting paid to hoop
Yeah,
is a dream. I don't care where you at, you
yeah,
know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So like that was pretty amazing. Um, though in hindsight, the one thing that was the most valuable is it helped me grow as a person because all I had was myself.
yeah,
Again, this is in what 2005, 6, 7. Ain't no technology. I had a Nokia phone with
yeah,
the snake game on it.
yeah,
You know, I'm running phone bills up to $500. So it was all me. And one thing that I did outside of basketball is I started to read. At that point in my life, I had only read to do work. I didn't read to like learn and get smarter. I mean, you kind of get smarter as you,
yeah,
but it wasn't on my own terms. It was for an assignment, a project. Over there, I was leisurely reading just for my own enjoyment, just for my own like knowledge, trying to expand my knowledge into areas that I normally. Because guess what? My book options is whatever's on this shelf in this room.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
feel me? So it wasn't Amazon. I can just order me a book right now.
yeah.
So becoming a more avid reader and just getting to know myself, I think was real valuable.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Just kind of, I guess, being away, just like you would think now, just maybe if you had kids or anything like that, having them overseas when they don't really have no internet, just the phone, you kind of be a nervous wreck. But back then, we didn't have the technology, so nobody was even thinking like that. But
Hmm.
just kind of wild back then, and then you kind of, I guess, I mean, is that probably how you kind of got to the reading? Really, just not just having that time to yourself.
Well,
really
all kind of time, and plus my team was kind of whack. So the one piece of advice that I give people based on my experience, that if you
yeah,
do go overseas, because here's the thing,
yeah,
people go overseas and sometimes people put on like, oh, I'm a pro ball player. You come back in the summer, you got a little, tax free money in your pocket so you
yeah,
can buy a chain or a nice car or something. But real talk, you might not be getting paid like that.
yeah,
You might not be getting paid, or your monthly salary might be $3,000-$4,000. Like you can make that here,
yeah,
right? And but one of the things that I learned is to play on a team if you got options with other Americans. I was the only American on the team. So guess what? I scored 40. I'm Michael Jordan. I'm on the front of the paper.
yeah.
You know, I scored 35 and we lose.
You're on the front of the paper
It's
still.
still an issue
Yeah,
though.
yeah,
But it's an issue. But like, dang, I had 35 though.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so like the one thing I regret about my overseas experience is I didn't activate my beast mode as much as I could have.
yeah,
Like I didn't have enough beast mode. Like it was, and I'm a hard worker. My whole career, why I was successful, because my work ethic is, part of my success. But over there, it had to be in another whole mode because it's just me. So if I go and then look, my team didn't have no shooting machine, so I can say I'm gonna go put up 500 shots. That's 500 rebounds too,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and that ain't even make 500. That's putting up 500.
yeah,
You know, so yeah, I didn't have that extra because I ended up getting cut because I'm the second leading scorer behind Larry. Like Larry, I don't know what high school Larry went. He from Nashville though. He played at Tennessee Tech. He was the like leading scorer. Um, but I'm averaging like 34 points a game. I ain't never averaged this much. I'm thinking
yeah,
I'm killing.
yeah,
I'm like 34 and like 12 or something. I'm killing.
yeah,
It's these cats.
yeah,
But also, it was only like three of us getting paid.
yeah.
So I was the only American. It's only like maybe four people on the team getting paid. Everybody else is locals.
Okay,
You
okay.
see what I'm saying? They might come to practice. They might not come to practice. And being over there did increase my leadership skills that helped me in my job today. Just with learning how to build relationships with everybody, and you might can't use the same strategy, but if you want to achieve one common goal and you call yourself a leader, you got to be able to connect with everybody on your team. And yeah, I end up getting cut, and in hindsight, I'm like, man, I could have averaged 45. Why? Because even though I was averaging so many points, I was still playing real basketball. I've never had the green light in my life.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I'm saying? This was like overseas was the first time I had the green light, and I ain't know what to do with it. I could have came down and shot 4 threes a quarter. Wouldn't nobody said nothing. They ain't keeping up with field goal percentage. Don't nobody know how many shots I'm shooting, right?
yeah,
So I'm like, man, I probably could have averaged about 45. They doing stuff like I'm passing it to people right before the shot clock. They passing it back to me. It's like you open. They got two people on me, shoot it, but they looking for me.
yeah.
In hindsight, cool. Come on, give it to me. I jack it. So yeah, that would be one regret. I wish I would have shot more when I was overseas.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Just because I never knew that kind of experience, and I'm sure every like country that you go to, it may be a little bit different as well.
Mhm.
But just trying to get in that leadership experience, I guess, like you said, that kind of carries off into what you do now as well, because you just have to. You're coming from a different country, so I'm sure you didn't know the language offhand. So I know that was like an obstacle in itself. Like, did you have like some kind of translator when you first touched down? How kind
Nah,
of briefly kind of tell me about that a little
right.
bit. Yeah,
So that's part of the isolation and getting to like know myself and
yeah,
having to communicate. I remember going into McDonald's and I wanted like ketchup on my burger or something, and
yeah,
they're like ketchup. I'm like tomato sauce, red sauce,
yeah,
ketchup.
yeah,
They
yeah,
what? Don't worry about it, man. Just give me five. Give me,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And now what I can say is the younger population knew a bit of English.
yeah.
And one thing that impressed me is about is I think it's in Europe in general maybe where people know
Bilingual, yeah,
multiple languages.
multiple,
Like
yeah,
in Luxembourg, everybody pretty much knew 4 or more languages. I thought that was pretty, you know what I'm saying, dope. Um, so yeah, nah, it was just me. Of course, the president of the team knew English. That's the person paying me. I can talk English with him.
yeah,
Cool, you know what I'm saying.
yeah,
Everybody else, it's whatever, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying.
No, that's pretty interesting. Okay. But then I guess now kind of moving along here, we out of Luxembourg. We back in. Did you come back to Nashville originally after you came from there?
For a hot second.
For a
And
second, then decide to go back to school.
yeah, so
Okay.
after traveling the world,
Yeah.
when I came back to,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, after traveling the world, when I came back to Nashville seemed super small.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, I got to get up out of here. I could go to TSU for grad school. Nah, I'm good on TSU. We love forever. You know what I'm
Yeah. For sure.
saying? And I applied to a school in Texas. I applied to Howard, and I applied to Adler, which is in Chicago. And I was like, whichever school accept me first, I'm out. And the school in Chicago accepted me, and you didn't have to take the GRE.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to take no more tests. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I came to Chicago.
Yeah, no, that
Mhm.
was pretty good to take advantage of because they recently, I'm not sure, like a lot of people might have tried to apply last year. They were waiving those tests
Yeah.
last year for the COVID. That was definitely a good time to
Hop
kind of
on.
hop on, yeah, for sure. So now that's pretty cool. So, what was your master's? What is your master's in regards to, what was your master's in?
Counseling psychology.
Counseling psychology. Okay,
Hmm.
so now you got your master's in counseling psychology, and then you are currently have B3 Enterprises.
Yep.
Okay. Can you kind
Hmm.
of tell me a little bit about that as well?
So B3 Enterprises happened out of COVID.
Okay.
You know, um, I've been a therapist, for about 10 years, just contracting, just seeing, clients part time. And, I kind of got pushed into it because of COVID and because of that systemic racism that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
You know, um, I was like, bump this, I'll go work for myself. And I just believed in myself because right here, I'm not happy. And I'm not the type, I'm not finna be, I sacrifice happiness for a little
Yeah.
while we try to troubleshoot or work it out or figure out a plan, and be patient. But like once, I determine that this is unhealthy,
Yeah.
and before I do something to damage my reputation, like let me bow gracefully and go start my own business. So that's what I did. It's a psychology education company, and I pretty much provide mental health education and therapeutic services, to schools, businesses, and just the community in general.
Yeah. So I would say, why are you so passionate about, I guess, the mental health in general? Why does that spark up passion for you?
Um, Cause your brain
Yeah.
control everything,
Yeah.
and it's still the most powerful thing on earth. I know we think it's computers, but your brain is definitely more powerful than a computer, and you have control over it. And in terms of mental health, it's like when you hear it, what's the first thing that people think of or attribute it to?
Something wrong or crazy.
Something wrong,
Yeah.
crazy,
Yeah.
negative, bad. And we have to change that mindset because we all need it. So part of my mission with my company is when people hear mental health therapy, therapeutic services, they think asset based, they think skill building, they think solution finding, they think self reflection. These are all good things
Yeah.
that everybody needs. Because here's the thing, Josiah, everybody got mental issues.
Yeah. For sure.
Everybody do.
No, you're right.
But here's the key, you can't let your mental issues turn into mental problems. And here's the difference. Like this is key. Anybody that's gonna be hearing this is key. We all got mental issues. So a issue is just a situation or topic that needs to be discussed or debated. That's it. Right? But the difference between an issue and a problem is a topic or situation that needs to be discussed or debated and needs a solution because it's having a negative impact.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So people hear mental issues and think, "Oh man, no, yes you
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
yes you do, you got them," and that's okay.
Yeah.
So you got to learn how to manage your mental issues so they don't become mental problems. And a lot of times, people don't understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna ask you, what would you think maybe would be the obstacle for someone trying to kind of get that breakthrough or understand what you're? Is just maybe the association that they hear the stigma with just being something crazy or something like that.
Yeah, it's just the stigma aspect of it. And so the DSM, I don't think they use the DSM no more, but it's still the most reliable source, you know.
What is the DSM? I'm not familiar with that.
The DSM is the Diagnostic Manual of Mental Disorders. So
Okay.
it's like the Bible of mental disorders. And it has 5 axes. And when people think of mental illness, they normally, go straight to like the third axis, which is like clinical. That's your like bipolar, your schizophrenic, like the more severe.
Yeah.
But they have mood disorders, right? I bet you know somebody moody right now.
Yeah, we all do. I
You
think
know
we
what I'm
all
saying?
do for sure.
For sure,
Yeah, for
right?
sure. Yeah.
But then, more important than that, when it comes to anxiety, we all get anxiety.
Yeah, I know myself. I be having anxiety
We all get
sometimes for sure.
anxiety.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, Axis 4 of the DSM, Axis 4 involves psychosocial and environmental factors. So the Bible of mental disorders includes what happens to you in your social interactions and in your environment and how that impacts you. So yeah, some of your mental issues ain't your fault.
Yeah.
So maybe people need to start understanding that.
Yeah.
Some of your mental issues is not your fault. So start blaming yourself. Stop being ashamed.
Yeah.
It ain't nothing to be ashamed about. Because the other piece of this too is we all have trauma. We all have trauma. Every last one of us. How much, how intense, that varies, right? And there was a time where I didn't think I had no trauma. Because let me ask you, Josiah, when you hear the word trauma, what comes to your mind? Or let's say childhood trauma, because the main, research behind this is called ACEs, acute childhood experiences, because all trauma starts in childhood. So when you think of childhood trauma, what comes to your mind?
Maybe just some kind of traumatic event, but like that's probably what I would think. But as an adult, it could be a lot of things. Just any kind of whatever
But
verbal stuff that might be going on that they just not
hmm
maybe not be at them specifically. They just kind of be around it.
hmm
It could be a lot of things like that, and even like your situation, like you said in school, getting a sash for the academics. That would I would say
Oh
that
yeah.
would be a childhood trauma as well, for
Oh
sure.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
But let's go to the fundamental trauma.
yeah, yeah,
Abuse,
yeah,
physical, verbal,
yeah,
you know, and neglect.
yeah,
I'm not giving you what you need, whether it's food, whether it's love, whatever. Uh, um, Abuse and neglect. Those the main two when people think about, bad trauma, right? So for me, I was like, okay, I ain't never had no trauma. I got plenty of love and food at the crib. You know what I'm saying? I got whoopings, but I
yeah,
probably deserved them.
yeah,
You know, we all
yeah,
good,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But there was a third category, and the third category is household dysfunction. When I start looking at the things under household dysfunction, oh yeah,
that's a big category, I would say, for a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Even I would, even for myself. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody's raised differently. You come from different backgrounds and things like that. So,
mm,
um, yeah. So it could be anything. But yeah,
yeah, so basically just bringing knowledge to people and just trying to flip that on its head and let people know that when it comes to mental health, you should take care of the one organ that dictates everything in your body.
yeah,
Like you tending to everything else. You in there, not to pick on the ladies, but you in here for 30 minutes trying to fix this eyelash. If you can spend 30 minutes on an eyelash, like you can be spend 30 minutes on mental health, and the same thing that goes with fellas. I got a homie, he'll work on his car for 6, 7 hours. If you got 6, 7 hours to work on a car, then you got some time to work on your mind,
yeah.
you
Nah, for
know.
sure. So what's I guess speaking of that real quick, like what's a one quick thing that they can maybe do as like a exercise, I guess that you could put out there that's real simple, that wouldn't take no time at all, so they wouldn't have any excuse
Mm,
after you say it, maybe to kind of put it out there
mm.
and not do it.
So I'm a cognitive behavior therapist, and then there's this theory, or it's called ants. So when you hear the word ants, what comes to your mind? Like the insect,
The
yeah.
insect, yeah.
Like what comes to like your mind when like you hear ants?
A whole bunch of them, real small,
How about
strong, yeah,
so? What the last part you gonna
real
say?
strong,
Strong.
yeah,
So one, they strong as ever.
yeah,
And then the other one, you say it's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
Ants work in teams like no other.
Yeah.
Right? So ants are super strong. The average ant can carry 10 times its weight. They got weaver ants in Australia that can carry 100 times their weight. And the weaver ants actually look kind of jacked too, you know. And so they strong and they work together. Well, you have ants in your mind. And ANTS is an acronym for automatic negative thoughts. We all have them.
Okay.
Automatic negative thoughts.
Yeah, I like that.
Whether it's about yourself, whether it's about other people, whether it's about the world, right? And just like the real ants, the ants in your head, they super strong. Like they estimate, the National Science Institute estimates that we have between 15,000 and 60,000 thoughts a day. So because we have so many thoughts, we kind of don't pay attention to them or don't give them the credit that or attention that they deserve because it's so many of them. So it appears like they're fleeting. They just coming and going. And yeah, but they have a significant impact because your thoughts dictate your what?
Your attitude, your outlook on everything.
Your actions and behavior.
Yeah.
You think it, then your actions come next.
Yeah.
You know, and then your negative thoughts work together. So if I'm having negative thoughts about me as a basketball player when I was in school, then I might start having negative thoughts about me as a student. Like, man, I'm being lazy on the court. I don't feel like doing this homework. I'm being lazy in the classroom. Now my girl complaining. I'm being lazy in my relationship. Now I'm having all these roll is lazy thoughts swarming me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because your negative thoughts will work together. So, with that being said, here's the 3 ways that you manage your negative thoughts. 1, you got to refocus your thoughts. So sometimes when we hear the word distraction, we think of that as a bad thing because you're always supposed to be on task, stay focused. No, sometimes you need to create a positive distraction for yourself because you see yourself finna go down a slippery slope with these negative thoughts.
Yeah.
No, I'm finna go do this. Whatever this is, this can be all kind of stuff as long as it's positive. You refocusing your thoughts on something else. 2 is reframe, and that's basically turning a negative into a positive. You know, reframing the situation. And the best way to do that is when you find yourself. So the first one and the second one, when it comes to refocus and reframing, negative stuff happens in life. So this ain't about just act like it don't exist or everything's gonna be okay. No, that's not what this is about. The first one is refocus, take some time away, and then we'll come back and deal with it more in an appropriate fashion. The second one is, okay, something negative happened, but how are we going to stay positive about this? Let's reframe it. And the best way to reframe is to stay focused, focus your thoughts on the end outcome, your desired outcome, what you want to happen, your goals. Because your goals and your end outcome is what? Positive. So if you think about no matter what's happening right here, this is all bad. If you stay focused on your end goal, then your behaviors are going to dictate that. Instead of, oh man, this is messed up. This is so bad. Why this happened to me? Nah, I'm going to stay focused on my end goal. And the third one is remove them joints.
Yeah.
Some of your negative thoughts ain't true.
Yeah.
Write your negative thoughts down. Do a pro and con list. And if you can't think of nothing to put on the evidence side, then you need to stomp on that ant and kill it. Because it's not true. Another ant that you need to kill is an ant that time has expired. Maybe that ant was true about you 5 years ago, but you ain't the same person. Yeah. So why you still thinking that?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So yeah, those are 3 things. You got to refocus, reframe, and remove, And guess what? I teach that to every last one of my clients. So that's really, I just gave some free therapy right there. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate it. I can tell, I can tell that was free. But that was really some valuable information, you know what I'm saying? Because myself, I've never heard that theory. It is interesting for you to explain it and put it, I guess, using that acronym ANT, because it makes sense for sure. So, I definitely appreciate you sharing that. Goes a long way. Mm-hmm. And then also, kind of, before we kind of wrap it up here, I did want to talk to, I guess now you're currently assistant principal at Epic Academy, and that's also in Chicago, right?
Right, correct.
Yeah, so kind of talk to me about your experience there. You were you teaching at first, and then you decided to become principal, or how did it go?
No, so basically my little journey is when I got done with grad school, I was
Okay.
going to move back home. You know, I'm a country boy at
Yeah.
heart. I still got Tennessee tags, still got a Tennessee license. I've been in Chicago, what, 14 years. I still got
Yeah.
Tennessee everything,
Yeah.
right? So I was supposed to go to grad school for 2 years and come back. My sister was the only one that was like, life don't work like that. One opportunity may lead to another, and you don't know how long you're going to be there, right? And I ended up getting a job at a CPS school. And the reason I stayed in CPS is at the time like 50% of black boys were dropping out of CPS high schools.
Chicago public schools.
Yep,
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
yep, Chicago public
Yeah.
schools. 50% of black
Yeah.
boys were dropping out. I'm like, oh, I'm needed here. Like, you know what I'm
What
saying?
year? What year is this? I'm just curious. For
This is
like so I can just kind of put it.
yeah, for sure. This is 2008, 2009.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm
And that's
saying?
right before they had like that. What's that realist like the little crash, the market crash thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's okay. I'm just trying to
So
picture the times.
yeah, man. So it was, bad. So I'm like, well, my skill set, my talent, my passion, cause like mentoring the youth is like something I'm big on. So I'm like, I'm needed right here, cause CPS is the third largest school district in the country. So I'm like, I'm gonna stay right here. So I started my after my first year, my principal believed in me and was like, you need to go get your leadership certificate so you can be a principal.
Yeah.
I ain't thinking about being no principal, you know what I'm saying? But you saying that for a reason, I'm gonna go like
Yeah.
do that. And through my journey, I did aspire to be a principal. To be honest, I before this job, I had been trying to be a principal for like I think I had my license for like 6 years. And I ain't the type of person. If I get a license, I'm gonna use it.
Yeah.
I ain't just doing this for like just for stats. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Nah, for sure.
For letters on the end of my email. Nah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I kept applying, but the problem I was running into is I have a counselor background. I only taught in the classroom for like 1 year. My principal made me the counselor,
Hmm.
and then that was my entryway into like leadership. And a lot of schools are traditional. In order to be a principal, you had to be a teacher for at least 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, just because you was a third grade math teacher for
Yeah.
10 years, don't mean you know how to run this high school.
Yeah.
Don't mean you know how to, you know what I'm saying, raise money. Don't mean you know how to balance a budget. Don't mean you know how to train other adults. Because a principal, that's what your job
Yeah.
is to build the capacity of your team and your people, which is a whole skill that ain't got nothing to do with your content, knowledge. So I say all that to say is it kind of, delayed my journey, but everything happened for a reason. The last job, I had to get up out of there. I started B3, was a full-time entrepreneur. That's a blessing because I never saw myself as a entrepreneur, So I'm glad that happened because now I'm in it and I like, love it. It's hard work. People be making entrepreneurship sound easy. It's not,
Yeah.
but it is fulfilling. Um, and then the job at Epic just kind of fell in my lap, and I really was kind of had closed that door on being a principal because I had tried for like 6 7 years. I'm trying to be a principal, and I'm interviewing,
Yeah.
but I'm not getting jobs. So at this point, I'm like, bump it. Okay, maybe I'm meant to educate people some other way. So let me start my own company and educate people through my company.
Yeah.
And had kind of closed the door on being a principal. Then the job came, fell in my lap, and it's a perfect fit. So
Yeah. Nah, for sure. I can see it, especially like being in Chicago. You probably have a lot of the people can see themselves within you. Like
mm,
with you first going there, I guess like on staff. Do you have like other staff that look like you? Maybe I'm sure. Like I'm not sure the demographic. Compared to Nashville, I wouldn't think not too many people with like even dreads or just kind of stereotyping profile. Cause I get done the same amount of times. Just like
right.
looking like people that look like yourself in different positions. Uh, do you see that there?
Well, that's a like great question because nationally, let me ask you, I'm just curious. What demographic nationally out of all the teachers, what demographic as far as race and gender do you think is number one?
Out of all the teachers,
Out of all the teachers, in the country, what gender and what race?
probably white women. I would
White
think.
women.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What percentage of teachers in this country do you think are white women? White women are number one.
maybe depending on where you're from. I don't know.
No, just nationally, all of them.
Nationally,
Whole country.
about half, at least half.
70%.
70%, yeah.
70,
yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I've been in a school where
it
didn't match up.
Yeah.
And I've been in the school, you know, because I mainly want to serve my community.
Yeah.
So, you know, the first school I was at really didn't, but the second school, yes, you know, we had a large minority staff. You know, it didn't reflect the student population because the student population is like 100%.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
So it didn't reflect it all the way. You know, because at the end of the day, you need good teachers. I don't care what color you are. You know, but culturally relevant teaching is a real thing too. So you can know the content all day long, but if you can't connect with the students, that's an issue. If you are unwilling to examine your own bias that you might have, because I'm black, I be having to examine my own bias with my own people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Nah, I feel you,
so if I got to examine my bias with my own people, I know you need some examining too, you know, but that willingness to do it, which is another whole conversation, you know. But.
Nah, that's good stuff. I just want to ask you like one more thing, because like you just have this experience now in Chicago public schools, and you know, from the media and stuff like that, you kind of hear like a lot of bad representation in regards to, I guess, what's going on. It might be accurate, but a lot of crime and violence and things like that. So, like, I kind of talked to you earlier, not within this podcast, but just earlier you kind of mentioned like something that you noticed was just like the death, just having students that you see them, then you might not see them again. And then we were talking like compared to when we were growing up, we just didn't have that. We just had that really kind of growing in, or seeing. You might hear like one or two, but you might, like you said, you might have it like every year or something like that. So
Yeah.
how does that feel like as like a principal, I guess, and then you have that or your licensed counselor. So that, like, what advice do you give to those students, I guess, in regards to that? Because now a lot of them are just kind of immune to it. I would imagine.
Yeah, like immune is a great word, and it's like hopelessness. Like there's a dark cloud of hopelessness under, you know, some of our younger generation, you know, about even a possibility. So one of the main things for me is just inspiration.
Yeah.
Just letting you know you do have other options. You know, and it can be taxing though. Like you got to be built for it. You got to mean it, you know, because vicarious trauma is real, you know. So losing a student can definitely have an impact on a teacher. Like you done had this child in your classroom all year, and now they got killed in any type of way. But in Chicago, what I was sharing with you earlier is, yeah, for my time. So at first I worked on the north side. Didn't only I worked there about 3 years. Didn't lose any kid. You know, maybe had one get shot, had two get shot. Didn't lose none though. Went to the south side, the school I was at, lost a kid every year. Multiple shot, but lost one every year. You know, I was there 4 years, you know, and that can get taxing. And, you know, it's hard to get used to, but that's me working in that community. What about the kids who live in that community?
Yeah.
How many people they can name in the last year? You know, young people, like under 21. You know, like that's serious trauma right there, you know. And for me, the one thing to answer that question about was one thing I tell them is just, you got options, you know, and I just try to let them know all your options, because a lot of time it's like one thing my dad can't stand and is a coach or a coach or definitely a like sports announcer who trying to be critical and give feedback and stuff, and you ain't never did it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you ain't never did it, and you can't do it right now. So I really don't need your opinion. My dad was always like, go find somebody who done did it, and then just so you got the, you know what I'm saying, the full range of knowledge. So if you're in the hood, if you're in the street, and your family, because that's one thing I learned. Gang banging is real in Chicago.
Yeah, for sure.
I wasn't gang banging here. It was about what side of town you stayed on. Bordeaux. I lived in Bordeaux. I used to rep the north side in the Palladium every now and then. In like 328, I used to rep Bordeaux. Yeah. But I wasn't gang banging like that. Yeah. It was like what side of town you on, and you know. Chicago, nah, it's generations of game bangers. I done had game banging granddaddies, and that ain't no pun. That's straight up. You know what I'm saying? Granddaddy still gang banging.
Yeah.
So think about the household and environment that child is in when your granddaddy gang banging. So who is this child who's still impressionable? Cause they're a child. But if they go into advice about college, about you know what I'm saying, about entrepreneurship, about anything positive, who they getting it from? Now they probably still getting some good moral values about loyalty and trust, and you know I do believe in being street savvy,
Yeah, for sure.
being well rounded. They getting all that, you know. But so yeah, man, it's really just to inspire to let them know that you got options, man.
Yeah, no, I like it, and that's part of again why you came out with the big three. Again, is that correct?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. You know.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's cool. Well, we're getting ready to wrap it up here. Did you have anything else that you'd like to kind of share? Because I really appreciate you joining me today.
Nah, man. I guess I would just highlight again the importance of like mental health, like the importance of mental health, and it's not negative. You know, it's a asset-based approach to building skills, self-reflecting, you know, and finding solution to the problems that you know you got. And if you don't got no problems, guess what? They coming.
Yeah.
Life. That's you know life. So yeah, just stomp on them ants, man. When you start having those ants, you know, in terms of those mental issues, let's make sure those mental issues don't turn into mental problems, you know. So that's a main message that I say everywhere I go, man, because it's real, you know.
Yeah, nah, for sure. Nah, I appreciate you again, man.
And appreciate you, man, for inviting me and creating this space, man.